We've been here before. Every year the Leafs lose in the first round. Meanwhile, the Tampa Bay Lightning have such a good postseason record. So why do I think the Leafs can do it this year? Hello everybody, I'm Victoria and I talk about all things NHL and MLB related from across the pond in Scotland, and for today's video I'm discussing why I think the Toronto Maple Leafs can win the first round this year. I already feel like I'm jinxing it just by even saying those words out loud. This is just the first in many post-season analysis videos I'm going to be posting, so hit the subscribe button and let's jump in. The Leafs versus Lightning is unique in the sense that it's the only matchup which was decided months ago. Everyone knew that that was most likely going to be the first round for so long now, whereas there's only a few days left in the season and yet there's some matchups which still aren't decided. Meanwhile, Leafs and Lightning fans are over here like twiddling their thumbs wondering what do we do until this starts. But it could have been a lot worse for Leafs fans. We could have been playing Boston. Boston terrifies me a lot more. Boston are a powerhouse this year. They have been record breakers. They have been ahead of the pack the entire season, despite having injuries and despite overcoming all odds. So in my opinion, it could be worse, and I would rather have Tampa than Boston. So the main reason I think the Leafs can actually do it this year is that they have improved more significantly than they have in any other season in recent years at all, since the 2000s. The trade deadline was such a potential turning point for the Leafs. It was dramatic changes. The acquisition of players like Luke Schenn, Jake McCabe, Ryan O'Reilly and Noel Acciari just strengthened the team so much and changed the team almost back to a more old-fashioned traditional style of hockey compared to the kind of safe version that often Kyle Dubas takes at the trade deadline. There were still risks involved in it, of course. It was giving away a lot of picks, but you know what? The Leafs are okay and it's kind of do or die for them right now. It's certainly do or die for Kyle Dubas, so it made sense what he did at the trade deadline. They made good changes. They're not relying on the same core group that they were relying on in previous years who did lose in the first round. And in addition to this, the goaltending seems to be the most solid that we've certainly seen it in recent years. The Leafs have been plagued by goaltending injuries from Freddie Anderson all the way through to the current Matt Murray issue. However, usually there aren't one or two good backup goalies standing ready to take over. This year, Samsonov has proved his worth so much. He's worth far more than the contract he's on. Ideally, you would have all goalies available, but for both health reasons and cap space, that's just not always possible. And Joseph Woll certainly has proved himself as at least a second string goalie, and Samsonov has been proving himself all season long. The goaltending is usually a weakness of the Leafs, particularly going into playoffs, and it's something that I don't feel concerned about overly this year. I was concerned when I saw Matt Murray. That was my phone. Wow. It's fine, we're all good. Okay, phone is back, let's continue. I was of course concerned when Matt Murray got injured, primarily because he is a human being and I hate to see anybody hurt or injured at all, but also because does it leave us in some sort of goaltending worry yet again? But I truly do believe in Samsonov and Woll. I think they've got this, and I think they might be just there to just push us through past the first round at least. Also, statistically, it just seems so impossible for the Leafs to lose in the same fashion as in so many previous years. Like, surely the numbers just don't add up to them being able to go out in the first round against Tampa yet again, right? Right? Or maybe they're just truly cursed forever and they're never going to get past the first round. I'm kidding, that's not what's going to happen. We are positive and optimistic over here. We're going to win the first round and we're going to go on a cup run. And I'm definitely not saying that because I go to Toronto next month and I really want them to still be playing hockey when I'm over there. So I have self-serving reasons too, along with my just general fandom of the team. Okay, so there's how the Leafs have improved this year, but of course Tampa have experience in the postseason. They have Vasilevsky in goal. Surely they're still better, right? No. the Tampa Bay Lightning are the weakest that they have been in a few years, which is natural. Teams run their course, they go through peaks, and it's just the way that the NHL works. It's why it's effective. I feel like the Tampa Bay Lightning are now starting to kind of go on the decline a little bit, which seems harsh, but hear me out. They overall just seem a less threatening team than what they have been for the past few years. They're still very good, don't get me wrong. They are amazing. However, I feel like they have a bit of a consistency problem. I feel like Vasilevsky is the thing that's really keeping them going a lot of the time, and it's really dangerous to just be relying on goaltending in the postseason. I am not trying to disrespect Tampa here. I really admire them as a team. They're very successful. They're very good to watch. And, you know, Jon Cooper, honestly, in my opinion, best coach in the league. But as I said, they do have some consistency problems. And if we just look at the regular season games, in the first game of the regular season, so game 1, the Lightning won 4-3 in overtime, so it was off to a very tight start. Game 2, the Leafs take it 4-1. Amazing. And game 3 we're about to touch on, but the Leafs just won that as well. So there hasn't been a regular season game that the Leafs haven't taken at least a point away from against Tampa. I think that is a very successful record, and although postseason and regular season are very different, as we'll touch on, surely you can't just, you know, lose the first round against a team you've been successful against all year. We shall see. So as if it wasn't enough that these two teams have been matched up against each other for a while already anyway, of course one of the last games of the regular season is Toronto versus Tampa. I won't lie, it was the Jays home opener that had my full attention that night, but anyway, we should touch on it. It's unfair to have seen this game as a benchmark because it just wasn't realistic to what a postseason game is. I don't think you can truly have an accurate benchmark because the postseason is such a different ball game. But anyway, the Leafs won it 4-3 and it was a fiery game. There was a lot of penalties, there was a lot of fights going on. Luke Shen, what a legend. There was also no Austin Matthews or Mitch Marner in the lineup because we're resting guys, we don't want these guys getting hurt. Especially, we were made to play Tampa so many times, we don't need to have the full lineup in going into that game the other night. It wouldn't make any sense. The game was really decided by special teams because there was just so many calls. I don't know what, I didn't watch all of the game because Jay's home opener, but the refs were really going for that one. They were having fun. And of course, at the end of the game, Leafs win 4-3. Very depleted Leafs team though, because they were missing two of their best star players, but they still won it. Amazing, right? So good. Joseph Woll, I love him. I love him so much. I love goalies in general, everyone knows this, but Joseph Woll, I love. And then Jon Cooper, who I've just said I think is one of the best coaches in the league. He is. And part of that reason is that he's very good at getting into the minds of his opponents. So he comes out after the game and says that there was zero intensity in that game, which I know seems almost disrespectful, but at the same time it's a sport and this is the point. And he's very good at getting into people's heads, which is exactly what he did. I opened Twitter and the first thing I saw was, even though like the Jays had been playing a home opener and won and it was amazing, all I could see was this quote from Jon Cooper. And so he did perfectly into getting into the minds of the media in particular. And everyone knows that the Toronto media is possibly one of the main influences on the team and perhaps sometimes why they lose. This culture of the Toronto media pushing out everything, and you know, everything's then focused on the Leafs, but then people don't like things being focused on the Leafs. It just draws more attention and a bigger narrative into that, and Jon Cooper just fed that perfectly the other night. He's a very intelligent guy, he knows what he's doing, and that's why he said it. That is why he said it. But yeah, I always think it's really interesting, like tactics that coaches have, especially heading into the postseason. And him and Keith, they're ready to fight. They're ready to battle it out. Just to compare stats quickly before we round up this video. So this is as of today. Today is the, what is the date today? Today is the 13th of April. It is the Leafs' last regular season game tonight against the New York Rangers, which I'm going to stay up and watch even though I'm in amidst so many deadlines right now, and I probably shouldn't, but last game of the season, gotta see it. So these stats are as of today, and I know there's a game tonight, but I really wanted to get this video out because I have so many planned over the next few weeks. So as of right now, which is one game away from the Leafs season being finished, Toronto are 5th in the league, whereas Tampa are 13th, so they're both in that top half, but there's quite a substantial difference there. The Leafs are also 2nd in power play percentage, which is very, very useful and I like to see. Tampa are 5th in power play percentage, which is still very good. The Leafs are 11th in the penalty kill, which isn't too bad, and Tampa are 15th in the penalty kill, which also isn't too bad, but they're both kind of mid-range in that one. And then, interestingly enough, they are actually tied in goals currently. So they're quite equal on most things, but there's some things that the Leafs have just taken the edge in this season, and I think they can do it. However, I do want to point out that, as I've said, the postseason is not the regular season. Games are different, the atmosphere and the vibe is very different. The officiating is also often changed, and the strategy between teams, because it is a completely different method of playing than in the regular season. Regular season, you're looking at this long stretch ahead of games, you've got to play through all of them against all these different teams. Playoffs are interesting because you've got a 7-game series against the same team. And the Leafs keep playing the same team year after year, so even more so. So there's every chance that the Leafs are going to choke and they're going to do the same as they always do in the first round, but I am choosing to be optimistic because I enjoy sports and they're meant to be fun, and there's no point in living in all this pessimism. So until I see otherwise, the Leafs are going to win in the first round this year, and they're going to go on a cup run, and it's going to be absolutely freaking amazing. And if the Leafs don't do it, then it's truly a mindset problem, because there is no reason this team shouldn't be going further than the first round. So those are my thoughts on why I think the Leafs are going to win the first round this year. Comment down below, what do you think is going to happen? Who are you cheering on? Do you think the Leafs are going to do it this year? As I mentioned, I have plenty of postseason content coming up, so make sure to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. And I'll be back soon with more hockey chats from across the pond. Bye guys.
I've been thinking about you day and night, ever since I saw you with your deep blue eyes.